positive inches across the net as she goes to block. In order to do this, she's going to make sure that she has one movement across the net. So she makes one movement, and that's palms across the net. So this is a good blocking position. The next technical tip is after she makes palm penetration, we want to make sure that she rotates her thumbs towards the ceiling. This widens her block out and strengthens her hands. If she rotates her fingertips towards the ceiling, she has a very weak block, a very small block, and balls will hit off the top of her fingertips really easily and tend to hurt her fingers often. When she rotates her thumbs up, it makes her wrists and fingers a lot stronger and allows her to cover more area along the net tape. The next technical tip then that we would look at is making sure that her hands stay shoulder width apart. One of the mistakes that players will make is they will not only rotate their fingers up, but they also bring their hands close together at block. This is really no wider than a ball width. And as a blocker, you want to be able to take away a lot more area than just that. So in order to take away more area, she rotates her thumb open and she keeps her hands about shoulder width apart, or basically the width of her head. So you'll notice that she has her fingers fanned wide, which increases her hand strength. Strong hands are important when it comes to hand position and blocking. She wants those fingers strong. She's got those thumbs rotated up and she's penetrated the net with her palms. So now we'll add a live contact and you can see what happens during repetition. Notice that she's maintained her penetration position. She keeps her hands the same distance apart, and she doesn't move her hands at contact. She's not batting them forward toward the hitter. She's just holding them strong so that if the ball hits her hands, she blots it back on the other side of the net. Earlier, we focused on tips that centered around vision sequence. Now I want you to take a look at the vision sequence of the actual block. And what you should notice is that she keeps her eyes open the whole time through block. If you're looking at the hitter's shoulder, you should be able to keep your eyes open and not squint at contact or flinch your eyes. So she's really going to focus on keeping her eyes open while she has her hands up there in her technical position. She has her eyes focused on the hitter's shoulder. Her face is relaxed. Her hands are wide and fanned. They've penetrated her palms across the net. They're shoulder width apart, and her thumbs are rotated up toward the ceiling. Now that we've covered the vision sequence and the hand positioning of blocking, let's start getting better at actually jumping and blocking. Put the whole thing together. What we're going to do is we're going to start in a coiled position. Coiled means a lot of different things, but it's a simple keyword to remember. The first thing that we look at with coiled is that her feet are shoulder width apart, her knees are slightly bent, her hips are slightly back, her shoulders are basically equal with her knees, and her elbows are equal level with her shoulders. This means that she has her elbows up and in front of her body here with her hands up and in front as well. Okay, this is the coiled position. This coiled position allows her to spring quickly up into the air while she maintains a good hand height before jumping. From the coiled position, in order to jump, she's going to make a knee bend, a slight arm drop, and then she's going to spring into the air and penetrate the net. She doesn't want to do an exaggerated arm drop. If she exaggerates her arm drop, chances are she'll do two things when she goes into the air. She'll hit the net, or she'll slap forward at the ball after she jumps into the air. And we want to avoid these two motions. Obviously, when you hit the net, it's a point for your opponent. So you have to keep that net clean. In order to keep the net clean, you want to just keep those hands out in front, nice and simple. So she's in a good coil position, and she's going to coil and then jump, okay? And this is her blocking mechanic. It's very, very simple. A couple of things then that you look at more specifically is when she jumps in the air, she wants to keep her hands apart. And we looked at that when she was standing on the box. She kept her hands apart during every block. In order to keep her hands apart, it's so important that she keeps her elbows in and she kind of squeezes them together. If a hitter starts with her elbows out and her elbows wide like this and take a step forward, it allows them to step forward to the net, getting them too close to the net. Then when she jumps from this position, she'll want to do two things. One is she jumps straight up and down, okay? Two is she wants to get her hands back together, so she ends up bringing them together like this, okay? And if you're jumping straight up and down and bring your hands together, it means that you're not making penetration and you're not keeping a wide block. So that all happens just because of starting with your elbows out. So she wants to start with her elbows in, and she actually wants to kind of squeeze those elbows together. And when she squeezes her elbows together, when she jumps in the air, it'll naturally push her hands apart when she goes to block. So she's in that coil position, she's got her elbows up, and she's got them squeezed together, which is allowing her to keep her hands separated when she makes her penetration. So she goes from coil to penetrate when she jumps. Now the last thing that we look at then during the jumping movement is she's making one move with her hands. And that move is at an angle from here to here across the net. A lot of times we call this the Supergirl takeoff. Just like Supergirl would when she takes off from the floor or from the ground, she's going to go up, up and away like this. It's the same thing for our blockers. One move at an angle, penetrating her hands across the net. If she makes two moves, which is up and then over, like a swatting motion, she tends to make a lot of net violations on the net, and her timing will be bad, and she'll have a lot of balls that hit her in the hand and come down on her side of the net. So she wants to make one move. So here's what it looks like. She's coiled, she bends, penetrate. Okay, coil, penetrate. Notice that she's got her elbows out in front every time. She's got a good body position. She's making one move across the net, and she's getting her palms to a plus side of the opposite side of the net. One more time, coil, penetrate. Good. Now we'll add the ball to it and we can see some live contacts. So she has the same vision sequence. Her eyes are focused on the hitter's shoulder. She keeps those eyes open. She's keeping her elbows out in front. She's got her knees bent. She dips at the knees, has a slight dip with the arms, then she jumps into the air, making one penetration move. Notice that right now she's not max jumping. She is trying to get her palms across the tape first and foremost. That's where 95% of the balls will travel when an attacker hits. We've worked on the vision sequence. We focused on tips that surround the hand positioning and the actual jumping mechanic. But now let's cover some tips to actually move along the net. Footwork movement is really important in blocking, and you have to make sure that every time before you block in the air that you stay square to the net as you see the hitter. So we're going to work on a quick hop, and when she moves in her hop, this is a small adjustment for the blocker. She's going to keep her elbows and hands up, and she's going to stay square to the net. She makes a quick hop to her right, and then she explodes into the air with a quick penetration. So she hops and then explodes into the air, making that penetration. Notice that she stays coiled in her movement so that she doesn't have to make two movements to jump. Some players will make their hop or their shuffle step, hop step high, and then have to recoil low to jump into the air. That's three moves. We want to cut down, eliminate one of those extra movements. So instead of being high, she's just going to stay coiled low as she moves across the net. So again, it's a quick hop. She's going to penetrate as she uncoils. Okay, she's got her elbows out in front, her hands are shoulder width apart, and she makes that penetration with the palms across the net first as she makes her move. The next footwork that we're going to look at is actually an open crossover, when she needs to go a further distance than just a couple feet. So now if she wants to go all the way to the outside to block the ball, she's going to use a four-step movement. Her first step is going to be a big right step as she opens her toe. This is going to help her cover a lot of distance with her next step. So she goes open right step, and then she's going to cross over with her left step, and then her last movement is going to be a hop as she squares back around. Okay, this movement is very explosive and dynamic, and it's a lot like a hitting approach. It's the same kind of thing that we're using when we're going to attack on the net or when we're transitioning off the net. And that is a left-right hop, or in this case, it's a right-left hop because we're moving in this direction. If she wants to move the other direction, she does a left-right hop. Left, right, hop, and then she'll go from coil to penetrate. So for right now, we'll do a movement that takes her from the middle of the court out to block a left side hitter. And she'll do it left, right, left, hop. And then she'll come back to the middle. And she'll do again, right, left, hop. Okay, now, she'll start again, and when she gets here, she's gonna stop before she actually penetrates the net. She goes right, left, hop. Now notice that when she gets to her hop position, a couple of things happen, and these are really important tips. One is she's got her knees bent already when she gets to hop so that she can uncoil. Okay, two is she keeps her elbows nice and high. If she drops her elbows way down low, she tends to hit the net and she loses timing to go across the net, penetrate and block. And timing is everything. If you're watching that hitter, you know that it happens in a split second, so you got to get your hands across the net as fast as you can. The next thing that really happens here that's so important is that she gets her toes squared around to the net as well. If her hop step leaves her toe open toward her other blocker, she's really going to keep her hands open and drift as she blocks. This will not allow her right hand to penetrate, and it will make a lot of balls go off her hands or eat inside of her block and drop on our side of the net, and she wants to make sure that she penetrates. So she's got to keep that toe closed when she makes that hop. The hop is really important. So the hop gets her to coil, and the hop keeps her square to the net so that she can then penetrate across the net. So we'll see at full speed again. And go, right, left, hop. And now she'll do it one more time with an actual penetration move. And go, right, left, hop, penetrate. Okay? So notice how she got here. She was able to maintain body control, and she went straight up across the net, penetrating toward that side of the net with her palms. This is a really powerful move, and you can take away a lot of area as a blocker and be a really strong wall for your opponent as a blocker on this side of the net. The next thing that we'll look at then is as she makes her move out here and she gets coiled and she penetrates, is what she's doing with her head. And a lot of blockers, when they make that move and they come all this way, they tend to leave their head rotated out toward the sideline instead of squaring it back in. And in the process of rotating her head back in toward the center of the court and getting it squared up, she allows her hands and her shoulders to get squared up to the net as well. If she makes her move again and leaves her head out towards the sideline, you'll see how her right hand and her shoulders have a hard time penetrating back to the inside. Instead, she wants to get her chin squared around to the net so that she can see the hitter's shoulder and she can make a strong penetration move across the net. So the chin is a really important part of the blocking mechanic as well, because it'll help with your vision, but it'll also help with you closing your penetration across the net with both hands. So here's a final tip for getting better at blocking. We're going to add some live reps here, and we're going to look at the footwork, we're going to look at the vision sequence, we're going to look at the hand positioning. But we're really going to caution you against what we call batting at the ball. And it's what most blockers want to do. They know that the hitter's going to swing with a lot of force and they're going to bring some heat on that ball. And we want to counteract it by swinging our hands at the ball. But you really have to resist that urge. And the way to resist that urge is to make sure that not only your hands are strong, but that you flex your shoulders and you flex your stomach muscles as you're blocking. Your core body strength will be plenty strong enough to block that ball back on your opponent's side of the net. So we're going to look at a couple of examples of what batting looks like and what it can result in. Not only net violations, but also balls really flying all over the gym, going out of bounds, going in the net, going all over on our side of the court. And we want to keep control of the ball when we block it at the net. So let's look at a couple reps. We'll hit some balls and she'll use a batting mechanic that we want to try to avoid. So you can see that she's still using the right footwork. She's still getting into a good coil position. She still has her hands shoulder width apart. Everything looks good until the moment she goes to block. And the problem that she's having is she's bringing her hands behind her head, and then she's batting her hands across the net. And by the time the ball gets hit, her hands are still back here, so she's totally ineffective. Her hands are back here, the ball's going past her hands, and then she's coming forward to block. Sometimes she's not hitting the net, and sometimes she will, but for sure she's not going to get a good block. So we'll look at a couple more and see what batting looks like and really want to eliminate this movement. So she has the correct footwork, and then she's too late with her penetration across the net, and so the balls are all going on our side or out of bounds. So now she's going to correct it. she's going to do it the way that she knows how to do it, and that is she adds the vision sequence, the correct footwork, the good coil, and the great penetration with her eyes open on that hitter's shoulder, and we'll see a huge difference with the efficiency and the effectiveness of this blocker. Good, so she's right, left, hop. She makes one move with her hands after coil to penetrate, and she's doing a great job of blocking. So keep working, keep focusing on these techniques, and you'll find that you'll start getting better.
I'm sure that the 40 tips that you've just seen will really help you improve your game technically. But remember, practice is really important, and you are the one that can determine how good you get with those tips. So good luck with your game, and remember, keep working on getting better.